there. Okay, well, it's so great to be here once again. I've spoken a couple times here, and I too was a part of Circle Miracles when Hannah Laura had it, and I did a workshop and lived here. Oh, there we go. I can see everybody now. And I love that song. Her name is Spia. I just Googled Rising in Love and she came up, but she has a station on Pandora and she's a Swedish folk singer. So all her songs are very similar and very happy songs, very happy songs. So if you want to hear her, I love what she said in this song is that I breathe deep and I feel God within and around me. The true light of my being is there for me and others to see. And always becoming clear, the veil is going thinner and change is here and I'm ready. And certainly we are at a time of change. I love also, I love looking up different holidays. In the winter holidays, I talk about the Festival of Lights because many religions celebrate light from the pagan earth religion to Christianity. It's all about how we can light up our lives. And Easter, I talk about the pagan celebration of Esther. Esther, I think that's how you say it. It's the fertility. And so how can we apply that daily to our lives? Fertility. You know, it's giving birth. It's being vibrantly alive. Easter does remind us. I also study metaphysics, and as the introduction said, in the Course in Miracles, it says, when I meet a brother or sister, I have the opportunity to give them a crown of thorns. So that would be crucify them. That would be judging them. That would be ignoring them. That would be making my mind say, they're a different color, they're a different culture, they may not be safe. So I crucify them. But in order to put the crown of thorns on them, because life is a mirror, I'm actually crucifying myself. Or I had the opportunity, as the young gentleman said, to offer love. And that's giving them a bouquet of lilies, offering them the resurrection. And so when I offer the lilies, I also have to have that myself. And I have to know that I am an infinite supply of love and that I am blessed because love will flow through me to them. And so we both rise in love and rise. I like to think of life as concentric circles rather than rising to a height because our human mind has been trained that higher is better, that more is better, that more abundance is better, more beauty is better, more possessions is better, and this is lesser. Matthew Fox wrote a book called Spirituality, Creation Spirituality, where he talked about the difference of climbing Jacob's ladder or dancing Sarah's circle. So to me, rising in love and living the resurrection is about being a part of the expanding circle where we're all included. We can hold our hands, we can look across the circle, we can all move together in the oneness. Well, the resurrection, the metaphysics of the resurrection tell us also it's rising from the dead. We don't necessarily have to be physically dead to rise or to resurrect. But death and the resurrection remind us that I can move from one state of being to another state. I can expand my awareness of who I am. It's also about spiritual transformation, moving from coming out of the cave and moving into more enlightened. I have the ability to, with being honest with myself, I have the ability to heal, to release, to let go, to practice forgiveness, and to extend love. I have the ability, we all have the ability to do that. You know, one time I was riding with somebody in a car and I would put my hands up. When I'd see somebody with a flat tire, somebody out of gas, I would just put my hands up. And this person driving said, "What are you doing?" And I'd say, "I'm blessing them." "You think you can bless them?" And I said, "Yes." "Could you curse them?" "Oh, yeah, you better believe it. If someone pulls in front of me, someone cuts me off, I can curse them." And I said, "Well, if you could curse them, you could also bless them." And we know, as spiritual awareness, we know that when I am cursing someone, I'm really cursing myself. When I'm blessing someone, I'm really blessing myself. That's how we can understand oneness. We realize life is the mirror, it's going to reflect back on me. The resurrection also gives us hope, hope and trust and faith that I can be renewed in mind and body. You know, all of us have been trained from our neck up. We've been trained in our mind and our brain. This is how it is. This is what you do. Uh, when we see someone, we judge them right away. We take them through our brain and go, is it safe, non-safe? Are they good? Are they not good? And then we react accordingly. If we take them into the center of our heart, we would see that they are a soulful being having that human experience. Now, I know that this group loves to hear people's stories. And I'll tell you my story, just the facts, like Sergeant Joe Friday from Dragnet. Anybody remember that? What did Joe Friday always say? Just the facts, ma'am, just the facts. So I won't go into my long story, but I will tell you this story of I lived in Pennsylvania for within a 10-mile radius. My entire life was only within that 10-mile radius. It was a little neighborhood, a big family and friends, and went to school there. And then in 1990, I ended up somehow, through a matter of synchro destinies, I ended up attending a workshop. And in this workshop, it was called the Day of Enlightenment. And there happened to be at the end of the day, I did a meditation class. I never heard of meditation. And I had different metaphysics and different spiritual teachings. And it was like amazing to me. And the people were packing up to go home. And they said, "Are you going to church tomorrow?" I said, wait. There's a church like this? And they said, "Yeah, it's Unity." So I ended up going to a Unity church. I went out to Unity Village in Missouri. I was trained to be a Unity teacher. And out at Unity Village, it's like going to an ashram. It's very sacred ground. It's its own community out there. And I was out there for 2 years off and on, as much time as I could. I left jobs, I quit jobs and went out there just because I knew it was my soul calling. It felt good. It felt comfortable. That's what I was to do. And then when I came home, I was an associate minister at a church, and then I became a ordained minister. Then I became a certified life coach, and I wrote books, and I had Open Heart Ministries. And I didn't realize, but when I called the telephone company to get an 800 number, they said, "What's the name?" I said, "Open Heart Ministries." And then years later, I thought, oh, OHM, Open Heart Ministry, OM, the name of God. So that was a cool thing. And then I became a certified life coach, and I started a coaching practice called Living at Yes. And the logo was a person with their hands up and their heart open. And it was Living at Yes meant you embracing spirit. Yes, you embracing spirit. And so I did that for a while, traveling, etc. And then in 1999, I had a partner that was killed in a car accident. And I had to get real with this. Is this an accident or is this destiny? And that led me on a very deeper level. of my spiritual growth, of things I had to release and be honest with and get rid of. I was a part of quite a large church at the time, and I taught a class called 1 Year to Live. And so what would you do if you were given a diagnosis, you only have 1 year to live? What are you going to do with it? And it was wonderful. I actually had 100 people taking that class, but only about 65 graduated because some people said, what am I doing in Pennsylvania? I want to be in Florida. I want to have my own business. I want to have an art gallery. And so people made major life changes. And that was like a wonderful, wonderful. And then I got to feel my grief and process my grief and come more deeper into my soul experience. It was shared this morning, love, sharing love, loving everyone. I love acronyms, and love I made up. So love is living oneness virtually everywhere. It could also mean living oneness virtually everything, always. And I followed my soul's purpose. And I love soul, I made up, is self, the self, S-E-L, the S-O-U-L. So soul is self of, let's see what I put, of universal love, the self of universal love, or the sound of universal life, the sound of universal life. And so we can live our soulful purpose is the soul of universal life, loving oneness, living oneness virtually everywhere. And that can be our motto. So what happened then for me in in 2013, I fell in love and got to Rehoboth Beach. I always wanted to live at the beach, so that happened. And I got married, and my new title became innkeeper because my wife had a bed and breakfast, so I became an innkeeper. And then we were on vacation in Florida in 2018, and I fell and broke my tibia and had to have surgery and stay in Florida for 8 weeks. When I came home, this started the beginning of my tsunami, a personal tsunami. So I came home with still not healed of the break. And my wife said, I want divorce. Okay. So I divorced and I lost my job, my house, my ability to walk, and my dog because I wasn't able to walk my dog. And then moved to a new house, set up, created a new community, new friends, newness, processed the grief of loss. And then I was diagnosed with endometrial cancer and had to have surgery and radiation. And then I had to go through that healing process. And then in 2.5 years ago, I fell in my kitchen and broke my femur. And again, unable to walk. So I always take seriously when I'm knocked off balance. That's what I say. Okay, I'm knocked off balance. The metaphysics, I was knocked off balance. I'm not able to walk on my own 2 feet. And so I had to take that into responsibility and self-examination and healing. And it's been 2.5 years later, and I had to learn to give. I'm a giver, but I had to learn to receive. I had to learn to ask for help. A part of that time, I was non-weight bearing, so I lived in a wheelchair. And when older people break their hip, it's always many people do not resurrect from that at all. Many people, it's painful and it can be debilitating, and they end up in bed, not moving. And pretty soon they just end up dying because muscles atrophy. They can't. So that was a whole new life for me. And even though we say it's not a beautiful life, it was an experience that, oh gosh, in some ways it put me in the tumbler of a dryer and tumbled me around and tossed and turned. And I had to really, really go deep in me. I see that our human life is an inner circle. And as long as we're here, humans, we're on the earth in 3D solid form. And we have experiences. We've all been taught how to live as a human and what's required. And then as we have awakening, we expand that circle and we get into the energy and the soul and the essence of who we are. And we have to then go into earth. So we live multidimensionally. We're on the earth and I'm in this expanded circle of my spirituality. And then now we know that we have been told by many spiritual mentors and teachers that we are in the midst of a shift. Have you been told that? You believe the veil's getting thinner? You know, I would say 20 years ago, if I said, meditate, people are like, oh, that's weird. Now, if I say we're going to meditate, we all get in position, don't we? We all know what that means. Even people who are not spiritual know what that means. Yoga studios. We didn't know yoga was not a popular studio. You know, we didn't have yoga studios 15 years ago. Now they're all over. We didn't have energetic healing or homeopathy or wholeness or wellness healings. We didn't know anything about that. I mean, it was around there, but most of us were not exposed to it. And now it's, if you say, I'm going to live more naturally, I'm going to take some herbs, I'm going to have acupuncture, I have a yoga class. Everybody knows what, well, not everybody, but I'll say most people, a lot of people know what that means. And that's how we have expanded and brought more light and more energy into it. Even in traditional facilities, they'll say the light within, where you have love within, you can expand. And so it has become more of the expanded. And then things happen. So right now, things happen in our United States government that could bring up fear for us and shrink us down, right? We shrink down and we're human, but we have to remember, keep expanding that. It may not seem like, how can I extend love to everyone when we're so opposed in our belief systems about human life? And the truth is, if we get into the fear and we let things make us fearful, we are crucifying ourselves and putting ourselves in the grave. You know, in ancient times, what did they used to do when a body died? They would wrap it up in cloth, right? And mummify it. We put our ego is reflected in the world. Our ego shackles us, prevents us. You don't have the power to do that. You're just a human. You didn't learn to do that. You know, our ego keeps us under control. I heard someone say one time that ego was a protective personality. The ego wants job security. So the ego continues to whisper in your ear, that inner voice that tells you, no, you're not worthy. No, you can't. Who do you think you are? One of the things that I have found from my experiences that I just shared with you, my life up and down, I had to learn to roll with the up and downs. And I had to take the ups to polish my light, to be out in my light, to reflect love. And when the downs came, I used that as a time to turn within. I have strangers because now I am literally celebrating my resurrection, because the first time in 2.5 years I can walk on my own. And that is of great value to me, to get out and walk on my own. And when people say to me, well, what did happen to you? Sometimes I have a cane, or sometimes if I'm really uneven ground or something, I'll get out my walker. And when I tell them a little bit about my story, they say, wow, you say that with such peace. How could you be peaceful after all of that? And I say, thank you, Sharon, because people can feel that I am a peaceful person, that I've used it for my own reflection, my self-reflection, my healing. I can use what happens to me to take me to the deeper next level of my soul energy. And so I'm joyfully celebrate sharing where I've been, what I've done, and how I've risen in love. Now, the one thing for this holiday I would like you to look at is, where is your ego keeping you under control? Where is your ego telling? Now, we don't use the word sin that much. Oh, you sinned. But there is a religion that teaches that you were born a sinner, so you don't have any hope. And sin, I say, an acronym is self-inflicted nonsense. Self-inflicted. I make up a perception that I have done wrong. And then I have to feel regretful. Then I feel guilty. Then I feel less than. I kind of get deflated. So we have to accept that I am a beautiful soul living in this human body. And I have to be able to stay in the present moment and in the flow. When I teach A Course of Love and A Course of Miracles, I say the goal of life is to be cruising in the love boat on the sea of peace. And if I've lost my peace, meaning if I'm worried, anxious, I wake up at night thinking fearful thoughts, I've fallen overboard. And so I have to find a way to get up back on that boat so that when you're on a cruise ship, oftentimes you don't even feel wave. You don't feel rock, or it just is a wave and a rock. And you keep cruising along. And so part of that is, how are you going to come out of the cave? What part of you is still in a cave? What part of you still passes judgment on yourself? What part of you is critical of your body and doesn't like the aging process of our body? What part of you doesn't like the condition of your checkbook or your relationship to abundance? And you're judging yourself on that or fearful about that. Many times now there's lots of people going, oh, everything's going to cost more. How am I ever going to get through the day and the week? And what groceries do I buy? I'm going to tell you something funny. Because the price of eggs went up, I saw on Facebook, people are using potatoes. They're dyeing potatoes. They get little round potatoes and dye them, hide them in the yard so kids can gather potatoes instead of eggs. I just think that's a little humorous. Anyway, so we have to ask ourselves, seriously, what part of me is judging, criticizing? Perhaps you don't like the living situation. Perhaps you're afraid of your future. Perhaps you have money invested and you look at the accounts and go, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to me? And one of the things that I have learned is whatever happens to you will happen. You have to figure out, how can I be living this new life with trust and faith and hope? And that requires you to have a new way of thinking, to take off any shackles of fear, to unroll yourself from the handcuffs that your personality, your ego is putting you under. That's all in your mind. When the Course in Miracles talks about an illusion, that's what it's talking about. It's talking about the illusion that you make up in your mind and you make it real. And when you make it real, it becomes real. It feels real. It's important that we feel the emotions, but let them pass through us. Feel it. They say it only takes 21 seconds. So when you have some fear, just let it be fear, be with it, I'm afraid, and let it pass through you. And know that you will be able to let love come. So it's about rising in love, living the resurrection, taking seriously that you are a soul, you're here on earth for a reason. You've been trained one way, and now it's up to you to train yourself another way to think, another way to be, another way to interact. And I love what the young man said, love no matter what. It may not be easy. A lot of people now are protesting in order to fight against something. And when you fight against something, when you enter the battleground, what do? You give the battleground energy. You give it life. You use your soulful energy to give the opposing person or energy life. And if you focus on love, so when you get afraid, bring it into your body, bring it into your chair, and transmute it with love and life. And right now in this space, this is what I say. The most important thing we can do is say, when I sit here in the present moment, I have to know that I am loved more than I can ever be loved. And nothing I do is going to make me be loved more, and nothing I do is ever going to make me be loved less. No one is judging me but my own ego. And my ego does not want me to be fully present in love and to share that because it may lose its identity. So